Welcome to Time Savers Shorts. You've got just enough time to sit back, neck a cup of tea and enjoy these tips, brought to you by Joe Parry from Windermere St Anne's School.
You know, we all know how crucial planning is, and effective planning means fabulous lessons, and it means our students are being taught really well, but boy does it take up a lot of time. So what about some time-saving tips on your planning? Well, the first one really is sharing good practice. You have to not be precious about these things. You don't need to reinvent the wheel each time. If you're teaching something new next term, talk to your colleagues. Have they taught this before? How did they go about it? If you've got a starting point, it will make the planning far easier. And if you're lucky, they might have some great resources for you too. And then you've done that fabulous lesson, you're feeling great about yourself, you're a great teacher. Well, don't let that go. Just take a little time to evaluate that lesson so you know in the future why it went so well. And then store away those worksheets and that lesson plan so next time you can use them again. And a note about just keeping those files. How often do you search around for those files knowing that you've got that perfect lesson planned? Think about how you're storing your files on the computer, think about how it's going to work for you, and do it in a logical way so that next time you want that lesson plan, you know exactly where it is on your computer.
Don't put yourself in a position where you have to use your non-contact time to plan a lesson at short notice if you have to cover for a colleague, for example. Make sure you've got a few standalone lessons that you can use at any time.
Kath, as a relatively new mum, time saving has become really important to you, but I also know your planning is really key to you. So how do you square those two things?
Well, I think that the key is when you start out in your career is to put your planning in place, and as you go on then life will become easier for you. For example, if you write a long-term plan for your 2 years course or your year course, you know each term which topics you're going to be teaching, so it focuses your mind.
I think that's the key to it actually, Kath. If you've got good long-term planning and you know exactly what you're doing, that really does help.
Yeah, and as I sort of have been planning my lessons throughout my career, I've kept a folder and I have a file divider that sort of says lesson 1, and in that folder there will be the practical that the students are going to do, the starter activity that I will do, the plenary activity that I will do, the notes that I will give the students, and the homework that I will give
so it's all
the
there.
students. So it's all there.
So you look on your long-term plan, you know where you are. You look on your medium-term plan to see where you are in
and then I can just go to my folder and get out my lesson. And obviously a key tip is when you prepare your worksheet, always keep them on your USB stick, because then, of course, as you progress through your career, you might think, oh, I need to change that worksheet a little bit, or I'd like to update it.
Exactly.
And then you can just quickly do it 2 minutes of a job rather than having to rewrite the whole thing and reinvent the wheel. But if you put a good long-term plan in place, you can then work from that. You can have your medium-term plan, say, okay, within the main topic, I'm going to teach these sort of mini topics within the 6 weeks of the first half term. And then, of course, then you've got your folder, which is essentially your short-term plan, what you're going to do lesson by lesson. Now, of course, at some point, you're going to have to put the legwork into that, but when I was a new teacher I did that, created my files, so now I'm a new mum, I have all my resources readily available
that's brilliant.
to me.
I think that's great advice when you start out, if you can do the legwork to put things in place. Good planning, I think, makes you feel safe and secure, and it also means you can multitask and you can be home with Erin and having a great time and know that everything's in place for the next day.
I think the key to being a very effective teacher is organisation, and I think if you've got good organisational skills, that will make you a very, very effective teacher. And I think teachers fall down when they're not organised in their planning. And I know teachers do this, they turn up to a lesson and they don't quite know what they're doing.
And then you've lost the students.
And then you've lost the students.
And then it's not effective use of time in any way, is it?
Absolutely not.
So organisation is key, definitely.
Definitely,
Kath,
definitely.
Thanks very much.